twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the path.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Freedom Network. I'm Gary, your host. Here we are live on the air, ready to talk to you about politics and all kinds of fun stuff. We'll get controversial. Yeah, we don't shy away from controversy. As a matter of fact, we encourage it. You can agree, you can disagree, you can bring up any topic you like. We are pretty wide open this evening. I've got lots of things to talk about. Thanks for the emails and all that kind of stuff as usual. I have got through all of them. I think I have like something like in my eye. It's the worst thing in the world to be on live TV trying to talk through a hair in your eye. Anyway, we want y'all involved. You can email in timorgary@gmail.com. You can certainly call in at 508-266-0990. Right on your screen is all that information. Let me start with this before we get into anything. Nancy Pelosi. Let me just start with this, okay? And we'll pick on her for a minute, but this goes for 99% of our Washington elected officials. Her annual salary is about $193,000. A little better than. She's been up there for 20, I don't even know. How many years has she been up there? Do I have any info there? I'm just grabbing this. I didn't want to change the computer. I think she's been there 30 years. Maybe a little shy of 30 years. 200,000, do the math, give her about I don't know, maybe $5.5 to $6 million bucks, right? So $5.5 to $6 million she's made over this time, yet her net worth, I'm reading here now, is over $196 million. But there's no corruption in politics. There's no problems, folks. Everything's fine. Please. We got groups on Facebook, many groups you can join and link into. We're glad that you joined us today. Excuse me. I thought I was getting a cold the other day, and I have decided I'm not getting the cold. I am fighting it off. And you know what? It's working. I've just decided I'm not going to have the cold. I had a cold for weeks and weeks and weeks. And now I'm done with the cold. And then it wants to come back again. Well, I've told it no. But anything you want to talk about, you're welcome tonight to do so. Local to national, what do you want to talk about? You just let me know. Otherwise, I'll blabble on about politics until 8 o'clock when 3 on 11 comes on. So, doesn't look like we're going to have a government shutdown, folks. Oh, you know, I was really kind of looking forward to the government shutting down. I mean, I think that would be okay. You know, it has shut down before. We can talk about that. But I say just shut it down. You know, I mean, tongue-in-cheek to a degree, but in all reality, so much of the government is so warped, so wrong, so misplaced, so misguided, and so out of the reality and the intent of what the founders wanted for the United States of America, right down to your small town, all the way up into Washington. Let's see. Where was that? I'd like to credit where I get. So some of this was from everywhere. I get info from today. I was on Fox. I was on CNN. I was on Reuters. I was on AMP. I was on all the news wires, and I just kind of pull stuff from them. It's impossible to get a real story from any one of them. They're all just propaganda machines. Every one of them. Anyway, the White House threw its support behind the Republican proposal to pass a stopgap measure so that you can continue to fund your government. Aren't you happy? I mean, doesn't that make you feel good? They'll fund it through February 16th. This will avert a shutdown and hopefully give them time to figure out how to really screw you permanently as opposed to just temporarily. But it does deal a blow to the Democrats. They wanted such a measure to include immigration protection. So all the spending, all the funding of programs that violate your rights is going to continue. And mark my words, folks, they will find a way to let this continue on after the 16th as well. Maybe it'll go on for a little while. It'll be satire. It'll give everybody a chance to do some grandstanding. And then somehow they'll all figure out a way to come together and make sure that they fund the government. It's so funny. It's so funny. It really is. You know, they don't really want anything to stop, not the Democrats or the Republicans for that matter. You know, the party system's a total failure. It's just an absolute and complete failure. Neither party really wants to pull America back toward the intent They don't. You know how I can tell you? I can tell you this confidently. Because they don't. That's how. Actions, results, what are they? Not constitutionality, not in way, way too many cases. As a matter of fact, year in and year out, we keep slipping further and further and further away. Some people are saying that Trump will bring that back. Okay, I sit and wait. He's 25% done with his first term. I don't know what he's done to restore any of these acts of constitutionality. He does sign spending bills like this one that do include funding for the NSA, who can come to your house and arrest you whenever they want. So there you go. You really should read up on that, folks. You gotta read up on that. It's something that I talk about a lot, and I think people just listen and they say, "Oh, maybe that's true." There's gotta be read up on what they're, able to do and not able to do. And there were some measures taken over the past couple of years to curtail some of that. Actually, I believe it even happened toward the end of the Obama years, with some rulings in court and whatnot. But overall, the entire existence of that program flies in the face of most. They still have these secret courts, and I don't have enough time to go through it. I do actually have enough time to go through it, but I don't want to get into a NSA conversations per se. But if you want to, we can. But you got to read up on it. You got to open your eyes, take the time to read and educate yourself on these things. And don't read the opinion pieces. Just read the law, read the facts, extrapolate pieces from it, skim through it. We sit and we read books that take us a month to read. They're this thick. I ask everybody to read the Constitution. It's that thick. Read it. Read it over and over. Read it to your children. Read it to anyone that will listen. Anyway, let's see here. Where was I here? Temporary spending bills are common. Shutdowns are rare. Previous ones have done little lasting economic damage, although they have hurt federal workers. They've rattled markets and shaken confidences around the world and blah, 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 blah. And they have. And it's terrible if the United States government shuts down, because if there's no money coming in from the people, then the whole world kind of gets tucked, right? Because all that aid money, all that kind of stuff, if there's no government to run, there's no, we're the milk bottle, you know what I mean? And that's what we are for the world. We just take our money and just send it all over the place. So it does affect the world. Congress implemented the modern budget process in the mid-'70s. Since they've done that, there have been 18 gaps in government funding. This is according to the Congressional Research Service. So not all of these resulted in shutdowns. Only 3 of them had significant impact. So this is interesting. During 6 funding gaps before 1980, the government continued normal operations. But there were 9 funding gaps between 81 and 94, and they occurred over weekends where there was minimal government impact or disruption. And again, this is information from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, is where that paragraph comes from. So here they are. Ready November 14th to the 18th, 95 was the first of 2 shutdowns after Democratic President Bill Clinton vetoed spending legislation passed by the Republican-controlled Congress. About 800,000 workers were furloughed from the 15th to the 19th during the first lapse in government funding. The December 16th, 1995 to January 5th, 96. You guys all right in there? Can you all hear that? Can you close that door? Thanks. I'm having a whole conversation in there. I'm trying to communicate with people here. Anyway, this was over funding of Medicare and health insurance programs for the elderly. About 280,000 workers were furloughed for 27 days, beginning on December 16th. So that had a little more impact. And October 1st to the 16th, 2013, 800 federal workers were furloughed, and more than 1 million more reported to work without knowing if they would be paid. They're such wonderful people. They're going to go help you and make sure that your government is working in full good working order. The shutdown occurred after conservative House representative Republicans attempted to use the budget process to delay or defund implementation of Democratic President Barack Obama's ACA, known as Obamacare. We know that was a complete and utter failure. You talk to people. I will tell you stories. I've told you stories before where people had insurance that would have covered them for catastrophic things, but not for the routine. That's very much cheaper, and they were kicked off of it. And then they got ill and couldn't afford the other insurance. And in many cases, you can Google this stuff. You can send me an email, and I can send you a story from somebody I know personally. Quite a thing there. Let's see here. The deal to end the shutdown, it coincided with a deadline to raise the U.S. debt ceiling, which is the borrowing limit for America. Give me the debt ceiling. It's like now it's so how in debt can we go? Can we get a little more in debt? Maybe we need to get more debt. I mean, we have to. It's amazing how Congress can snap back and be in session and be ready to take care of themselves, make sure their government is running so well. And I say their government because it doesn't feel like my government. I'm in a very anti-government mood this week, I'm going to tell you right now, because it is not working for the people. And it's really just set up to be a safeguard system of freedom. That's all the Constitution really is. It safeguards the freedom that you already have. It acknowledges the freedom that you have. It doesn't grant it to you. It acknowledges it and protects it. It doesn't grant it. Your freedom to speak is your freedom to speak. Okay? The Constitution protects that. It didn't invent it. It just protected it. Bannon reached an agreement with special counsel to be interviewed instead of having to go before a grand jury. He was subpoenaed, I think, though, for the grand jury, but didn't want to go, trying to reach a deal. He was a close advisor of Trump's, and, Trump got rid of him. Let's see here. Earlier this month, Trump attacked Bannon for comments he made to Michael Wolff, the author of a book highly critical of the president and his family. They included scathing remarks about Donald Trump Jr., the president's eldest son, for meeting during the campaign with a Russian lawyer who was said to have damaging information on a Democrat candidate named Hillary Clinton. So, I mean, the FBI is investigating. Everybody's investigating. I'm not seeing a whole lot come out of it. And I don't mean as far as charges or anything, because we know that we don't charge the government elite. That doesn't happen. We don't charge Hillary Clinton with crimes, even though she's committed crimes. The FBI director stood on television as much as I'm standing or sitting here in front of you, and clearly said in his own words that anybody else that would engage in the behavior that Hillary Clinton engaged in would have charges filed against them. Go on YouTube, easy to find. We just accept it. As people, we just accept it. So what they said to you with that whole thing is that what Hillary did was wrong. We don't think that we're going to prosecute it. We don't think any prosecutor would prosecute it. But if someone else did it, we would prosecute it. And you suck that in, you buy it, and you get up and you go to work the next day and you don't do anything about it. That's why you have a government the way that you have it right now. But they're investigating the potential collusion by Trump's campaign with Moscow. And, it says here, I found this, according to a person familiar with the arrangement, the attorney who represented Bannon for Tuesday's House appearance, William Burke, is not representing him in connection with this investigation. The person, they did not believe Bannon had hired a counsel for that yet. I find that hard to believe. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Rick Dearborn and former campaign manager, when I copy and paste sometimes, it's Corey, it's a long last name, very long and hard to pronounce. It's Lewandinsky or something like that is Corey's last name. They were due to appear before the House panel behind closed doors on Wednesday. So, Donald, the best move that you made was to dump Bannon. Best move you made was to get rid of that guy. It was obvious from the start. This guy is known to not play nice with others. I guess I could say that, and that's about the nicest way I could say it. But I don't know what's going on with all this Russia stuff. I would like to see some actual facts come out. I mean, there were meetings, there was this, there was that. I'm not going to say just because there's no charges, Trump didn't do anything wrong. I won't say that because there's no charges on Hillary, and she did something wrong. I think that they would love to bring charges, though, against Donald Trump. As a matter of fact, I think they're salivating at the possibility of being able to really find something. So I think if there was something substantial there, it would be everywhere, all over the place. Now, Bannon goes in there. Will he throw the old boss under the bus again? Sure, he's gonna. He absolutely will. He's got no allegiance to Donald Trump, let me tell you that. But I would like some hard facts, not just opinions of people. This could have happened, that could happen. Now, the fact of the matter is that the kid did meet. And you know, that's not cool, and that's not how it should go. What were the results of it? What was the purpose of it? You know, those kind of facts. We need to know what those facts are. We do. But I don't know that they're stonewalling or anything either. I don't think that they are. I don't get that feeling that they are. I kind of get this feeling that they just want to find something on Trump. And this is probably the best avenue because some of the things that were done were not cool. Just not cool to do. But, again, half of me says, well, if there's no charges, then there's probably nothing there. But the other half of me says, well, there were no charges for Hillary, and we know there was stuff there. So what do? I don't know. The Judiciary Committee approved. This is really interesting. What's your opinion? Any of the stuff, your opinion on it, you just let me know. I got an email popping in here. Okay, it says, Gary, I enjoy the fact that you're very anti-government this week. It's been a long time since you've gone on a tear. Please continue. Love it. That's from Dan. Thank you, Dan. This Judiciary Committee approved a bill Wednesday that tightens the oversight of lobbyists who work for foreign governments or companies. Does this not beg the question? Are you already asking? If you're not already asking yourself the question, why can foreign governments lobby our government in this type of manner that we'll explain? The law received renewed attention when Paul Manafort, a Republican operative who briefly served as Donald Trump's campaign manager in 2016, pled not guilty last year to charges ranging from money laundering to acting as an unregistered agent of Ukraine's former pro-Russian government. I mean, this is all nasty stuff, folks. This is the stuff that keeps you down. These are the deals, the inside trades, agreements, winks, nods, and handshakes that have a huge impact on little stuff that you don't even realize. Your money, your children, and wars, and medicine, and all this stuff. These are made in these are handshake deals that really, yeah. Let's put it this way. Ready? There's a great example. The French fries that you can get at McDonald's around the corner here, right, or any McDonald's that you buy in the United States of America, they cannot sell in most countries in Europe. Now, they sell French fries, McDonald's does, but they sell different French fries. The reason is there are certain chemicals in the French fries in them that these other countries will not allow in their country's food supply. But in good old United States of America, no problem. Couple bucks over here, couple bucks over there. Next thing you know, you're eating French fries. So, again, go on Google. Google's great because, you know, I say Google. Go to any search engine you want and get yourself some information and just say ingredients fries sold in the United States, ingredients in the McDonald's fries sold in England. I'm going to tell you right now, one paragraph is this big, one paragraph is this big, okay? And there are some differences, not a ton, but a few of those things that you can't understand. Who comes up with the names for all these? I don't. But yeah, you can't do it. So to the greater point, anyway, the committee voted 15-6 to give the Department of Justice additional powers to enforce rules regarding lobbyists to register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA. Oh boy. It also closes loopholes that require the Justice Department to develop a strategy for enforcing the law. You know, it's amazing. In the Senate, Republican Senator Chuck Grassley, head of the Senate Judiciary Committee, had proposed a similar bill. Critics have argued, though, that the reporting requirements are unclear and contain loopholes that allow American lobbyists to avoid disclosure of their foreign clients. This was, FARA was first passed in 1938. It was in the lead up to World War II in efforts to combat German propaganda efforts and was later amended in 1966 to include lobbyists, according to the Justice Department. You know, I mean, you say to yourself, well, what kind of story? That's not a big story. It's a huge story. It's a huge story. And the story isn't the legislation that they just passed. That's not the huge story. The huge story is the fact that we have foreign governments and companies, lots of companies, lobbying your representatives, your government. Why is this even allowed? On any level, never mind, the games that are played out in Washington on that level. Why is that allowed? Why? If the country wants to, first of all, the president is the one, if you really want to read some of the founding documents, one of the very first things in the president's job description is to make treaties and trade deals and to be our representative to the world. And then come back and deal with Congress in both houses and put things forward. The president is not supposed to be what the president is. The president should not be involved in your everyday life. The government should not be involved in your everyday life. It should be a thing over here. And what it does is it exists to protect your rights that you already have and to protect the country so that we can have these rights intact. That's it. That's it. Most of the other stuff is all about the states. And most of the Constitution, when you read it, is about how to set up and maintain the government. That's what it is. It's a rule book for the government, not for Gary. So I take a lot of flack sometimes. I say, the Second Amendment is not a states' rights issue. And the Second Amendment is not a state rights issue at all. No state has the right to make any laws about guns when you come right down to it. But they do. They're allowed. We have these rulings through the courts. The courts are not always right. That would need to come from the feds because it's a federally protected right to own a gun. That's your federally protected right to defend yourself and to actually have and possess and own a gun. So why do we allow cities and towns to decide if it's right or if it's allowed or if this is even a right? Now, again, I've said this many times. We happen to live where we broadcast out of a good town, okay? You can, people that want to have a gun permit can have a gun permit. For the most part, I've never heard any real horror stories about that. There are cities and towns, though, where they just say, nah, we're not giving any of those out. Hence, they've suspended the Constitution of the United States of America in that geographic location. States can't do that. States can't do that at all. They can't do it with any other right. They can't say that you're going to have no due process anymore. They can't say that you're not going to have freedom of speech in this town. They can't say that some people will have freedom of the press, but others won't. And they can't decide who gets freedom of speech and who doesn't. Why are guns allowed to be a right that states are allowed to curb? Why? I mean, when you really think about it and deconstruct it and break it down, right down to it, get all the emotion the hell out of the room, okay? Get it out. Get it out of your head, get it out of the room, get it out of the debate. Why is the gun the right, which, by the way, is your most important right, the right to keep and to bear arms, is the one that really ensures all the others stay intact? Why is it allowed? I mean, I'm a huge, huge states' rights person. I mean huge. And when I say huge, I mean big, 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 as Trump would say, right? I'm all about it. But I'm also a person that believes the Constitution is the way to go. And the Constitution clearly says that the things not listed in it and other things are to be taken care of by the states. But the Second Amendment is listed, and it is a federally protected right. And don't say federally granted right. Don't say the Constitution grants anything, because it doesn't. It grants nothing. Nothing. It protects. Big difference in that. The government doesn't give you this right or the right of freedom of speech. You have the right to speak. It protects your right. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, gun rights are clearly in there. So I don't know what the state would have to do with gun rights at all. What do you think about that? At all. Now, James Madison did say lawful citizens of sound mind in the Federalist Papers should, in fact, own a firearm. So could you infer that there should be a licensing process? We're getting into the gray area now. But you could infer that. You absolutely could as a sane human being. You could also infer that to do that and get those three things, are you a citizen, are you lawful, and are you not out of your mind, that you would have to do some kind of a background check. I mean, been saying for years now, I'll say it, and just keep changing the date. It's 2018. 2018. I can find out anything I want about anybody like that. Why does it take them so long? Why isn't there just one license for 50 states? If that's going to be the case, why are there licenses in every single state? Again, the state doesn't have an inherent right to deny rights granted in the Constitution. They just don't. Roadblocks or sobriety checkpoints are a violation of your rights. Huge. There's no due cause to stop you. None whatsoever. And if there is, then there is. That's a whole different ballgame. But driving is not a privilege. No, it's not a privilege. We've allowed it to be a privilege that we get granted to us by our lords in government. Please let me use the roads I pay for. They're your roads. You can use them. All right? They're your roads. You're on public land. It's everybody's land, which means all your rights are intact. Your rights are mostly always intact, but not always. Not always. A couple that do vary depending upon where you stand. Freedom of speech would be one of them. Freedom of speech is a funny one because people go on Facebook and they say, well, I have a right to say anything I want here. No, you don't. It's not public. It's a company. That's what Facebook is. They can limit any speech. They can censor anything they want. You don't have to be there. You don't have to speak there. You have no right to speak on this program, right? You could call up and you could say something, I don't like it, and I could say, I'm going to ban you from the show. I don't do that kind of stuff, but I could say that. You have no right. I'm not infringing on your rights. When unions protest, they don't protest on the property of the company. They protest off the property unless they had permission to protest on. So they don't have freedom of speech on the property, okay? So a lot of areas where certain things do depend. Certain things do depend. Out in public, you are protected from searches and seizures unwarranted without due cause. So I say it's not a privilege because it's not a privilege. We as a society have said, hey, in our state, we want to set these rules up for driving. That's fine. We decided that we're going to use a light. Now, we all know the Supreme Court. You see it out there on Facebook all the time. Supreme Court says you don't need a license to drive. And they stop they stop the verbiage. But it does go on to say that states do have a right to license and whatnot. And it's all in the same one. People just, that's what I mean when I say you can't get real information. You have to dig, get a whole bunch of different pieces, put it together, and get your own conclusion. But you pay for the roads. You pay for their upkeep. In no way did any founding father ever envision in America where citizens of this country would be stopped at checkpoints to check in and see if any crimes were committed. You tell me that James Madison would be okay with that. You tell me that you pick a founding father that they're going to be. I pick him all the time because he's one of my favorites, but you tell me where any of them would agree with any of that. Now, I understand the purpose. I understand the purpose is safety. And then we all hear Ben Franklin's quote about safety, which incidentally was about a treaty. A land treaty, I think, is what it was about. It had nothing to do with anything that we usually apply it to, but it is true in many cases. It can transition into many different areas. The reality is, plain and simple, the government, through the courts, has allowed this, and the courts allow it because they say that you have to notify the public that it could be happening, and then it's okay. It's still not okay, because they shouldn't be doing it in the first place. You should not be able to be detained, period, unless there is due cause to detain you. And if there is due cause, and you are breaking the law, then that's a problem, and you should be stopped from doing so and dealt with as such. And who makes the laws? Well, in the states, the people do, all through popular votes. Every law in Massachusetts, that's where I'm from, every single law we have sanctioned. because we could elect people that would change those laws through popular votes, but we just choose not to. We choose not to. We just keep going along, going along. We have become a society where we really think that the government is in charge of us. We have lost the reality that we are in charge of the government. That's what America was built for. But we've lost that whole reality. We've lost it. It's all warped up. Our monetary system is absolutely crazy. There's nothing to back it up. There's nothing to back it up. Okay? You know, they print all they want. This causes massive inflation on a global basis. So I was kind of taking some notes down here. People say audit the Fed, right? It's not a real argument. When they say audit the Fed, first of all, they're not talking about, is this dollar match this, what you put on the book? What they really mean is what I mean when I say audit the Fed is to really audit the process, the operations, the results. Are they following laws? Are they following regulations? And what exactly is going on every time they print another pallet of money? Why are they printing that pallet of money? What's the purpose? Where's it going? And why do we have to have so much of it? That's why everything's so expensive, you know, folks. Because they just keep printing so much money. It's like anything. If this is a one-of-a-kind cup, it's going to be worth a lot of money. If there's 10,000 of these, this is a one-of-a-kind, by the way. If there's 10,000 of these, they're not worth as much. That's just simple. Everybody knows that. So, you know, beyond that, the Fed is an entity that simply is not working. It needs to be restructured. And how do I know it's not working? All right, look at what money was worth just 30 to 50 years ago. 30 to 50 years ago. Look 130 years ago, and you'll even be more disgusted. But look what the money was worth. And when I say what it was worth, as a percent to your income, what were you paying for X, Y, and Z, right? Money had far more value, and it actually bought a lot more. Here's the thing. You can go in the corner store and you can get a candy bar, right? And it costs you, let's say, $1, okay? The candy bars are so small now. Have you noticed that? Now, you go and look back at ads from, let's say, Sears from a long time ago. And they had, 10, 20 cents or whatever it may have been. And you have a candy bar twice the size, right? When you start to look at money from yesterday and start to look at money from today, the buying power of your money is what's really been affected. Not so much the dollar and what it means, but what does it get you? That's where you got to start looking when you want to talk about the monetary system. All right? So the whole banking industry is kind of a mess. And the reason it's a mess is because they just keep printing money. There is no value to the money you have. I mean, I got a couple of bucks in my pocket. There's nothing to back it up. There's nothing real about it. I mean, it's when you really think about it, it's almost monopoly money. We just have decided that it's worth something. But it's worth no more than the paper it's probably printed on. Prices are driven up. People can't afford many things. So we enter credit. Oh, credit, my friends. Now you can afford anything you want because you can get credit. So think about that for a second, right? Just think about that. The banking system prints more and more money, making the value less and less. And then the price of goods go up. The government sells us out with insane trade deals. Insane, I say, trade deals. And jobs in America that are left are lower paying jobs in way too many cases. But then you can get a credit card or you can get credit to buy what you cannot afford because the banks devalued your money. So now you're going to have to pay interest on the money that you borrow because you cannot afford the goods as a result of the weak job market due to those trade deals. So the banks make money on your interest and they make money on the government. And the government also borrows the money and we pay interest on that. Interest is the name of the game, folks. That's the goal. They don't want you to be able to afford anything. Because if you can afford it, you don't need them. They don't make money. So at the end of the day, people are left with jobs that don't pay. So people are forced into debt or public assistance. People always say, why do I have to pay all this welfare for Walmart? Why can't they pay people enough to just, afford everything? Because those aren't jobs that you afford everything on. They're second jobs in many cases. They're talking about the cashier, the person down at the corner store. That's not a career. I mean, if you want to live in a small apartment and maybe with a roommate there is no one that judges happiness but you. So whatever makes you happy is fine. But if you want a house on 10 acres of land and 20 different cars and all that kind of stuff, Walmart doesn't provide that job as a cashier, nor should they be forced to. Nor should they be forced to. What's a home worth? I mean, is it really worth what it's priced? Look at your house. If you own a home, let's say, just rough estimates, you paid $375,000 for your house, right? You don't own it because you got to pay property tax on it. You don't pay that property tax, they will take your house away. So you don't really own it, all right? That's the first thing about home ownership that's just, it's the ugliness of it, right? You can pay that thing off, pay cash for it. Doesn't matter. You don't own it. I own this cup. No one can take it away from me, right? The government can't come and take it away. I own it. It's my cup. My son bought it for me, actually, right? But they can come and take your house. Actually, they can take your house through eminent domain if they really want to. Anyway, just take it. But if you don't pay that rent, which is all the tax on your house is, the property tax is rent. You're paying rent. So you don't own it. It's not yours. You buy this house for $375,000 and you never own it. You always will be paying to live on that property. And you're going to pay the banks big money because the house itself, to build it, cost a fraction of that. A fraction of it. And land being one of the most incredible commodities ever because they can't manufacture it. So there's no more land. It's just what we got. And that's why the value of land can go up. And again, they're right there to say, hey, don't you worry about it. We're going to charge you $400,000 for this house, but we're going to let you pay us out over 20 years, and you'll pay us $700,000. So now you paid $700,000 or $600,000 for a house that you were told was worth $400,000 that was probably only worth $70,000 to $150,000, and you get to pay for it for the rest of your life through property taxes. It makes me speechless, and I'm someone that speaks all the time. How could I be speechless? But think about it. What do you have? Yeah, you can sell it and make money on it. You can, and then you could buy another one. Well, you could buy anything. Go buy a car. Go buy a car. Go take your average car, right? Probably $25,000, $30,000, right, for an average brand new car, somewhere around there, something decent. $30,000 for a car? It's inflation, folks. That's inflation. Look at what cars used to cost. Look at what they cost now. Now, you could say people made a lot less. They didn't make that much less, man. Not that much less. I remember I know what my father made when I was a kid, okay? And I'm going to be quite honest with you, all right? People don't make that much more than that now. They do, but not in concert with inflation or that average from back then. Let's say that when I was a kid, my father was doing real well and he was making $50,000 a year, right? You make $70,000 a year now, and you got to watch your money. you got to watch your money. Excuse me. So it gets me all choked up. It really does. We're getting screwed completely. So I say audit the whole damn government. Put it all out there on the table. I want to know it all. So when I say audit the Fed, that's what I mean. I want to know exactly what the processes are. Why are we just spending money that we, don't have? You really need to layer it in and think about this logically. You can't think about it emotionally because then you're going to get, well, it's this one and it's this, the Rothschilds did this and this one did that. It's a system, folks. It's a system. It's a system. It's not a guy sitting around in a three guys in the smoke-filled room saying, well, smoking a butt and saying, hey, let's make inflation go up a little bit, will you? That's not how it works. It's a system like a siphon that's put into place by bad people, and now it's just going to perpetuate itself forever until someone goes, enough. People don't like to talk about it. What do you want me to tell you? When was the last war we declared? World War II. We talked about that last week. No fighting we have done since World War II has been a legit declared war. Why? I mean, why? The wars we fight today they're endless. Endless wars that are about profit, not really about freedom. Because we simply keep propping up the next dictator that's going to rule over the people that eventually we go back to fight, often with Bible in hand, and the people never seem to be free. So why do we fight them? Why do we not declare an actual war on them? And why do people not ask these questions? Why have we been at war for so long? You know, lots of people say, support the troops, right? I say it all the time. But we should support our troops. And we should do so by asking these questions. And we should do so often. And we should stop asking our bravest among us, okay, to put their lives on the line so some moron can make women walk behind men and toss gay people off buildings. Because that's all that's happening. That's all that's happening. There's no real freedom there. Remember the woman with her thumb mark because she voted? Come on. That's a show. We know exactly who we're installing in every country. It's awful. We should support our troops. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. To support our troops, we should demand that our governments call upon them to defend this country first and foremost. And we should support them by asking them to help other countries that are defending themselves from tyranny, that want freedom, real freedom. Never should anyone that supports our troops also support undeclared wars where our children, brothers, sisters, family, and friends are asked to install another dictator. That's not what the founders wanted. Defend America first. And when doing that, you know, let these brave men and women fight to win. Never enter a war we can't get out of. I mean, we've been fighting the war on terror for longer than both World Wars I and II combined. If you think that the players are making the decisions on this are doing anything but making money for very few and keeping an ongoing situation that is resulting in nothing more than money moving around, if you attack the country, plain and simple, your country should be flattened, completely destroyed, over, done, and gone. Does that sound harsh? Yeah, it does. But that's reality. Okay, that's reality. Mess with us, you get destroyed, plain and simple. Okay, it's like Russia, or the Soviet Union. Back years ago, they had a plane that was hijacked. You know what they did? They shot it out of the sky. That's what they did. You know what? They never had another plane that was hijacked. It just really gets me upset when I would watch with George Bush and with Barack Obama and now with Donald Trump these rules of engagement. What is all that about? We're fighting a war. Well, we're not, because it's not a declared war. But if we could have rolled from one end of the Middle East all the way to the other, flattened the whole thing years ago. Are they really a threat to you? In some cases, they are. So let's deal with it, and let's get the hell out of there, because I'm over this. I mean, we have literally been in a perpetual state of war. Well, America's been at war a long time. Don't forget, America was founded in blood. America was founded at war. America was founded by rebels. That's your ancestry here, okay, is the rebel. The thing is that those rebels wanted to get freedom to people. Not so many rebels today that we see that we're helping out there in the world. Where is the freedom? Where's the result? We're asking our families, our fellow Americans that have decided, I am going to go stand up and protect America, to go to these countries and to fight what? Who? What are we doing? You just can't do it. Well, you can do it. And what the result is just what we have now, which is endless, forever and ongoing wars. It's just my opinion. You know, for the record, all vets should get free health care. Shouldn't have to qualify for it. They're a vet. They should get free health care. All right? And it should be of high quality. And all the help for housing, food, and so on that they need. That's supporting your troops. We have starving vets and homeless vets, but yet we debate over how many illegals we should pay for in the United States of America. None. That's how many. None. Not one. Take that money, any penny that whole illegal program costs us, and divert it all to the troops. Let them that stand up for you get taken care of. Why are they on the street? Why are they starving? Why? But people say they support our troops. This is what we do to our troops. Supporting your troops is words. If you really want to support them, get to your congressman, get to your senators, get to the president, and say enough. It's over. Okay? Take and put the world on notice. Like Donald Trump says, don't mess with us. If you do, we're going to take you out. But when we take you out, let's really take them out. You do that once. You know, you would have saved lives, for crying out loud. Saved them with all the lives that have been lost in this war on terror that has no plan to end. There's no strategy to it. It will never end. It perpetuates itself. Weren't we talking about siphons at the beginning of the show, folks? Freedom isn't hard to understand. It's hard to live. People want to be taken care of. Take care of the vets. That's what I would say. Take care of the veterans. Okay? That's how you support them. Demand it from your congressman, and if they don't, either try to file a bill. Even if they get shot down, if they don't try, vote them out. Now you can say, I support the vets. But just to sit there and say, I support the vets without putting any real skin in the game, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's offensive to some people. Someone just told me that they don't think that all illegals are the same and they shouldn't all have to go home. Stolen land, booey. I got a call. Let me get it before the program ends here. We'll see who this is. Good evening. You are on the Freedom Network. How are you?
Hey, Gary. How are you? This is Paul Fulham.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, bud. Glad you're out there.
Thank you.
What's going on?
Nothing. I saw you on Facebook. You mentioned I could call in.
Sure you can, man. We're on for
I've
about
been
another
watching
7
your show
minutes
for
or
a
so.
little bit here.
Yeah, what do you got?
You were talking about unions and stuff like that
Yeah.
on Facebook. I'm running for state rep for Worcester, 17th Worcester District,
Yes.
and I'm kind of an anomaly because I'm pro-union and I'm Republican.
Sure. I mean, Paul, I don't fashion myself as anti-union. I don't like the influence or the direction that some of them go politically. Take the politics out of it. I mean, that's people's right. They want to do whatever they want to do. I just don't like the fact that they wield so much power in Washington. Go ahead. I'll give you some time.
I agree with you. That's why I think there should be, if unions have support from both sides, Democrats and Republicans, that's how you keep a check and balance on that power aspect. You know what I mean?
Sure. Makes sense. So you're running. What have you been in politics before?
I've never run for office, no.
Okay. And what got you involved?
I just want to have a voice, you know. Kate Campanelli is the person there now. She's stepping down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to keep it in Republican hands. I'm a conservative, and it would be great to keep it that way, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem so. Do you have any hot button issues? Anything that that really is affecting people that you're kind of circling around?
Well, I'm interested in jobs and better wages. That's why I'm interested in union stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Unions, they have a lot of positive things, you know, better working conditions, better wages, you know. They kind of, made the middle class what it is today, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think we were talking before about, let's say we can pick on Walmart. Everybody does. But how much is Walmart supposed to pay a cashier, man? Like how much? Should you be able to afford a house on a cashier job?
I don't know what they should pay them. I don't think it's up to government to dictate wages anyway.
There you go. Well, that's a great answer right there for me. That's a great answer. Now you're running in what district is that?
17th Worcester District.
17th Worcester District. You know, it's
Like I
interesting.
talked about conservatives, right?
Yeah.
How do they factor together? So conservatives, they're not fond of big government, right? We're not fond of big business, right? So what is big business? It's crony capitalism. And so how do we combat that? So basically unions are a company, and the business is a company. So when they negotiate, it's just a contract. That's like capitalism at its best. You know, they're dictating their own wages. Government's not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I get the premise. I do get the premise. I really and truly do. I just, I always go back and I mean, I have some decent business acumen behind me. And I know what budgets look like and things of that nature. And I also know that jobs are about value to both the company and to the person. But I keep on looking at these folks that want to, whether it's the union or whether it's the union support upping the minimum wages. Did I not hear that Target or Walmart was going to pump up to 13 or 14 bucks an hour or something like that? Where does it end? I mean, these
I think they wanted at 15.
15. These
McDonald's, right?
Yeah.
McDonald's.
To me, it just seems like, where's the end of it? I mean, how? And that's why I always ask the question: how much is that cashier position worth? It's not the person. See, to me, looking at it business-wise, it's not about the person, John Smith. How much is John Smith worth? John Smith should make himself worth, hopefully, as much as he possibly can. But the position that he's in, I mean, you look at any of these major companies, the biggest bill they got is payroll. And that's at 11, 12 bucks an hour. It's the biggest bill that they have.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Only bringing that minimum wage up for an entry-level job is going to make less jobs. And they're not going to be able to,
Sure.
afford that.
sure.
And that job is not supposed to be a so-called living wage. It's supposed to be an entry-level job where you learn job skills and move on from there.
Sure. What else is out there on the horizon for you? Do you know who you're running against?
There's a guy from Leicester and another Democrat from Worcester.
Yep.
So there's two Democrats and there's me so far.
Well, that's Massachusetts. You got to get used to that, right? You're always going to be outnumbered if you're a conservative, man.
Yeah. But there's other things that, that can help jobs in Massachusetts, like the inventory tax or the medical device tax, or corporate excise tax.
Sure. I'd love to. You found me on Facebook, right? Or I found you, or somehow I saw something of
You
yours.
found me,
Yeah, I saw your ad about the unions. That's what it was. I think it was one of your posts. Must have been sponsored or something, and it popped up on my feed. It's amazing. Social media is amazing. But if you can find me through that, send me a message, and let's either get you in here or let's get you more time because I'm running real short on it. But let's get you. I'd like to jump into some issues with you and talk to you and see what's up, if that's all right.
Okay, Gary. Sounds good.
All right, my man. I appreciate you checking in. Thank you very much.
All right. Have
All
a
right.
good night, man.
Yes, sir. You too. The power of social media. It's amazing. All right. It's like almost time to go. I got like a minute or so left, don't I? And I had more stuff. I never can get through the stack of stuff. I was going to go through some of the constitutional amendments and all that good stuff, man. But I don't have that time. All right, folks, we have come to the close of yet another edition of the Freedom Network. I want to thank everybody that helps make the show possible, especially the people here over at NCTV, the most amazing team that you're going to find anywhere in this industry. I can say that from experience. I've been around the block a few times. And I just want to thank you all for being out there. You're fantastic. Thanks for the emails. A couple come in I just couldn't get to. I want to thank Paul for calling in. We'll get him back on here. Let's dissect Paul a little bit and see what he's all about. We love having candidates on. It doesn't matter where you're running from, for, it doesn't matter. We like to get in and talk to people. Just remember the one thing that I said before. The Constitution does not grant you anything, okay? It's a rule book for government set up to protect the rights that you already have. My name's Gary. This has been the Freedom Network. I'll see you again next week.